Welcome back, friends and family. This is Codiferrous, and today I'm bringing you Ninja Gaiden Black All Bosses Ranked. For this video, I'll be going over all 22 major bosses, analyzing their attacks, defenses, and abilities, and then providing strategies against them. Now, before we get into the thick of things, it is very important to make a few notes. Firstly, all game footage that you're about to see is from my own recent playthrough of the game, which is not a first-time blind playthrough. Secondly, this boss ranking video is based on my own personal experience. This means that everything that follows is wholly my personal opinion and not meant to be taken as unshakable fact. Thirdly, and probably the most importantly, I am trying to look at these bosses from the perspective of a player who's running through the Ninja Gaiden Black story for the first time. I also want to mention that because I am going over the major bosses of the game, I will not be covering the Ryu clones. Lastly, and I figured that this would be obvious, but just know that there are major spoilers ahead. Now, this is going to be a rather long video, so without further delay, let's dive in. Coming in at number 22, we have Hydrocubus, aka the Fiend Octopus. Shortly after watching Rachel the Fiend Hunter take the jaw off a Dino Fiend at Han's bar, Ryu finds himself ambushed by the Dino Fiend's groupies outside the monastery. After dispatching them, Rachel appears to talk to Ryu, but their conversation is interrupted by the Hydrocubus. Now, the Hydrocubus has battled 3 times in a normal playthrough of Ninja Gaiden, but we're only going to be securing him one spot here for this Chapter 5 encounter. He only has 4 main attacks, and none of them really hit you for significant damage. His first attack, he just whips his tentacles in small circles. His second attack, and the one most likely to hit you, will be a full circle sweep. His third attack is a tentacle joust, which leaves him wide open, and finally when you get him low, he'll begin to spew acid in a circle around him. This attack can cause some damage, but it's very easily avoided. To beat him, simply use the Dragon Sword plus Flying Swallow attack to cut off his tentacles. Then while he grovels in self-pity, just wail on him. I usually take the opportunity to unleash an ultimate technique at this point. Rinse and repeat and you'll take him down without much worry. He finds himself at the bottom of our list at number 22 for several factors. Shallow move diversity, predictable attack patterns, low mobility, low damaging attacks, and his worst quality, the fact that he sits still after you cut off his tentacles, just waiting for you to slice him to ribbons. Defeating the Hydrocubus here yields no reward, only the completion of the chapter. Number 21, Codiferrous, aka the Ice Yeti. After running around in the ice and lava caverns and melting down metals, Ryu stumbles across Codiferrous. Codiferrous suffers from the same issues as the Hydrocubus in that he has a shallow attack pool, lumbering motions, and is not too mobile. However, he does have a high damaging grapple attack and a ranged ice spike attack which hits for moderate damage. Most of the time though, he will attack with jabs. To defeat him, you want to avoid being directly in front of him, otherwise you risk being hit by his grapple move. Granted, his grapple move has a large wind-up animation, which hopefully gives you time to get out of the way. Circle around him when possible and take quick slashes at him. It is possible to Flying Swallow him, but I never discovered a great time for when he is vulnerable to this. It just seems that sometimes it would connect, and other times he'd just bounce off. Don't try to go for full combos until after he's finished an attack, because he can punish you with his Ice Spike attack. Defeating Codiferrous grants the Eye of Ice quest item. Number 20, the Holy Vigor Emperor Angelic Form. Even though the Holy Vigor Emperor is built up as this all-powerful ruler of the fiends, he's quite the pushover. For this fight, Ryu is floating on a stone and you need to slash the vulnerable orbs on the Emperor's shoulders and torso. Unfortunately for this fight, you were unable to block or roll, so to dodge the Emperor's lasers, you need to hold the left trigger and maneuver yourself out of harm's way. The lasers are the Emperor's only real means of attack from what I've gathered. Putting it plainly, to beat the Emperor, the best tactic I found was to just press the attack on him. Tank the lasers. Just keep slashing away. I know, it's not very conventional. Sue me. Unlike the Hydrocubus and Codiferrous, who have high defense stats, the Emperor is pretty frail and will take large amounts of damage from your combos. Stay tenacious and you'll see victory in no time. Winning this fight progresses you to Phase 2. Number 19, the Holy Vigor Emperor Demonic Form. After slapping enough stones with your sword, the Emperor falls in a lava, seemingly defeated. However, out of the lava, this nightmarish amalgamation of skulls rises up from the depths to resume the battle. Hopefully he didn't take too much damage from the previous fight because there is no break between the Emperor's first form and the second form. The demonic form has only 3 major means of damage. First, the pile of nightmare fuel will jump onto the platform with you and will occasionally stomp, doing AoE damage. Note that when the Emperor jumps next to you, he's vulnerable to attack. His next move, and primary means of attacking you, will involve throwing its skulls at you like a swarm. This skull swarm always ends with this final attack where the Emperor's own skull flies at you. If you do not avoid the Emperor's skull, you'll be caught in his third attack, his grapple, where you'll be chomped on for massive damage. To beat this boss, you need to have arrows. APFSD cores do the most damage, but all arrows are viable. When he is prowling around in the lava, just unload on him. Destroying the skulls is the only way to deal damage to the Emperor. Because there is no way to replenish your arrows, it is very important that you do not miss too much. Use aerial attacks when the skull swarm launches at you to maximize damage, and always be ready to dodge the final skull to avoid getting grappled. To cheese this fight, simply use the art of the Inazuma. It's the best Ninpo in the game, and definitely demonstrates its power in this fight. The invincibility frames it grants will avoid the grapple entirely, and the resultant bolts of electricity will destroy all present skulls, dealing maximum damage. Defeating the Holy Vigor Emperor yields no reward other than chapter completion. Number 18, Pazu, aka Undead Pterodactyl. One of the more random bosses ever conceived, Pazu's found at the end of the aqueducts after placing the ceremonial sword into its mold. Pazu has decent defense stats and is capable of dealing high damage with his attacks. However, his attacks are spaced out enough that you really don't run the risk of getting 100 to nothing by him. He has 4 forms of attack. His primary is firing a laser with a delayed follow-up explosion. This is dodged so long as you keep moving. His second attack, when you get close, would be to stomp the ground. It's pretty slow, but has a subtle animation. As long as you're paying attention to when he's stomping, you can also dodge this pretty easily. Next, Paz will flap his wings for a damage area in front of him. Finally, for his grapple, he'll try to chomp you if you're standing inside of his mouth. As long as you're sniffing his ass, you should be able to avoid these last 2 attacks. To beat Pazu, just spam the Flying Swallow. I know that most of you Ninja Gaiden veterans are probably judging me right this very moment for saying that, but it really is the most effective method. While 90% of bosses are immune to the Flying Swallow, Pazu is not. So I recommend to all first-time Ninja Gaiden players to take full advantage of this. You won't be able to do it on very many bosses, so savor it while you can. Pazu will periodically lunge forward to swap sides to the other arena. Just chase him and keep laying the smackdown. Eventually, Paz will take a knee and hang his head in shame for being outsmarted by such a cheap technique. Take this time to slap his head around like a Winco mom publicly disciplining her child. Unleash combos until he stands up again and then repeat. Defeating Pazu simply ends the chapter, no reward. Number 17, Fiend Mirai. Take Mirai. Now combine him with Barney the coke-addicted dinosaur. That's our number 17 spot. Fiend Mirai's fought directly after the bullshit. Fiend Mirai's fought directly after the fair, fun, and balanced platforming puzzle following your fight with the Holy Vigor Emperor. You latch onto Rachel and are blown out of a volcano. Not sure how you ended up there. Where Mirai, revealed as the Dark Disciple all along, grabs the Dark Dragon Blade. After absorbing all the evil of mankind, you fight Mirai to discover that, hey, maybe mankind is not evil after all, because Mirai is a weak final boss. He has short combos with exaggerated attack animations which make it easy to dodge. He hits for moderate damage, but he himself takes a generous amount of damage from your attacks. His most devastating move is when he summons a Dark Dragon and sends it into the arena to deal AoE damage. To beat Mirai, come on. It's the end of the game, your gear's maximized, your Ninpo's maximized, you're essentially a ninja god at this point. Use what you've learned so far in dealing with other human-sized enemies, and you'll breeze through this fight. Okay, fine, I'll give you some tips. There are 3 attacks you do need to be mindful of. The first is Mirai's version of the Flying Swallow. It's the attack he does when he winds up and then spirals at you. The attack is fairly fast and can catch you off guard. His other attack is one that you will always need to look out for with all bosses, and that is, of course, his grapple attack. His grapple is a little hard to discern from his basic attacks, as he impales you with the Dark Dragon Blade before discarding you like a shameful tissue. Thirdly, avoid getting hit by his Dark Dragon summon. This attack can deal nearly 50% of your health on normal difficulty, but much more on higher difficulties. To dodge the Dark Dragon, simply roll and jump at the correct time, or take advantage of invincibility frames by casting Nimpo. Defeating Fiend Mirai gives no reward, but it will bring an end to the torture of Ninja Gaiden. Now, because you typically have excessive money and much higher leveled up gear in the game, you guys are actually going to find that a lot of the earlier bosses are going to be ranked higher than the later bosses. Because let's be real, in the early chapters, you're Wade Wilson pre-cancer, you're Captain America pre-serum, you're Sora pre-Kingdom Key, you're Sasuke Uchiha pre-Sharingan. So you're a nobody, is what I'm trying to get at. So that brings us all the way back to chapter 6. Now get out the french fries, boys, because Codiferrous is about to start getting salty. Number 16, Bone Dragon. The Bone Dragon is resting in the middle of the spiraling walkway in the underground beneath the monastery. He decides to wake his lazy ass up when you place a shiny cup on a pedestal, which apparently ruined the vibe that he was curating, because he gets very grumpy and attempts to kill you for doing it. Bone Dragon generously rotates each of his limbs towards you throughout the battle, and to defeat him, you need to destroy all of his limbs. He has 4 primary attacks. His most common one is when he springs out excess vertebrae from his asshole and then catapults them at you. It's fairly easy to dodge, but it's a little challenging to get in attacks while also avoiding these. His second attack is a light stomp that he will do, and is only really used to break your combos on him. These first 2 attacks don't deal too much damage, so if you get hit by these, it's no sweat. It's his next 2 attacks that you need to be worried about. The one that will begin the salt train is his tail sweep attack. He uses this when rotating his hind legs. It's fairly fast and has a hitbox that seems to connect to intervals that you swear you dodged. The tilting part is that sometimes he'll tail swipe once to rotate his hind legs, but oh no, other times he tail swipes and then fakes out by tail swiping again in the reverse direction. His final attack won't occur too often, but we call it the Jurassic Chomp. This ability has a large animation windup that shifts the camera angle. Just roll at the correct time and all is going to be chill. Failure to dodge this attack will result in large damage, and quite frankly, you almost deserve it. To beat Bone Dragon, slice up his feet when possible, dodge the projectiles when possible, and always be on the lookout for that chomp attack. Word of advice, he will only do the tail sweep if he's on his hind legs, and he will only try to chomp you if he's on his front legs. When you get done turning the Bone Dragon into a quadriplegic, he'll hit his dumb ass head on his fall down, and you will then be rewarded with the lives of the 1,000 gods. Number 15, Fireworm. Ever wondered what it looked like if you could skin an earthworm? Well, do that, but now magnify its size to something of a school bus, and congratulations, you just found number 15 on our list, the Fireworm. Encountered in Chapter 12, the Fireworm only has 3 methods of attacks, just like its electric worm counterparts. Unfortunately, 2 of these attacks deal significant damage. The most common attack, however, will be its weaker one, the Swipe attack. A carefully timed jump roll or ninpo activation will avoid this. Its second most common attack, which usually follows a series of its swipe attacks, is the firing projectile. Blocking is not an option here, as the firing will break your guard and you will subsequently be eating full damage. The timing that you need to roll or jump through the firing is very specific and will definitely take some practice to get. Alternatively, you can jump side to side in the arena like a flea in heat, and you just might be able to avoid the damage. But failing to do so, as I said, will result in significant damage and knockback. Finally, the worm's most devastating attack, which is unsurprisingly its grapple. The fireworm will rear back and then extend itself in a straight line. If you're standing anywhere near the center, you will be caught and take around a third of your health in unavoidable damage. To beat the worm, you can charge up ultimate attacks with the Doblaharo for its ranged shockwaves. Otherwise, you'll need to dodge the worm's attacks and then follow up on its openings. Occasionally, the worm will plant itself in front of you briefly, where you are then able to get a few attacks in. Be careful about trying a full combo here, however, as this might get you grappled. Because the fireworm occurs after the electric worm encounters, you should have some experience fighting these things at this point, hence why it finds itself at the number 15 spot. Butcher up this worm like the pronunciation of Worcestershire sauce, and you will be rewarded with the Eye of Fire quest item. Number 14, Black Hawk Helicopter. Now personally, this was not a very difficult boss for me, but remember, I'm trying to apply this list for a first time Ninja Gaiden player. With that said, ever want to try and fight a helicopter with a bow? Well, you can fulfill that crazy fetish right here in Chapter 9. After cutting down a majority of the Vigor military, Ryu will face off against, that's right, a freaking helicopter. This boss only has two means of attack, its machine gun and its missile salvo. The machine gun fire takes away your health like any normal enemy with firearms does. The attack you need to be on the lookout for is when the helicopter unleashes its waves of missiles. This is a fairly fast attack, and the hitboxes for these missiles always extends beyond what their animation appears. The problem here is that when you get hit by one missile, you're almost guaranteed to take a few more right after. This boss is a bit difficult because it is battled almost directly after the tank battle, and if you're not careful with your elixirs earlier, you might find yourself FOL, aka f***ed out of luck. To defeat this boss, you need to utilize your arrows. Forget about explosive arrows. That's the poor man's version of explosive ordnance. APS, FS, whatever cores work the best here. The helicopter is most vulnerable when it changes size by flying under the bridge. When it's rising up, unleash 3 to 4 arrows, then start rolling. If you get too greedy and try to sneak in a few more, it's going to punish you. Always try to let in a few arrows after a missile attack, as a helicopter usually has a small grace period after it does this. Otherwise, take care of roll jumping to avoid the other instances when it launches missiles, and you should cruise through this battle. Defeating the Black Hawk helicopter yields no reward. Now, little disclaimer. Before Ninja Gaiden had official names released for all their bosses, I simply gave each boss a little nickname. Without further explanation, I will now introduce you all to one of the most memorable bosses from my childhood, one that really holds a special place in my heart. Doug. Number 13, Dynamo, aka Doug. Doug is encountered at the end of Chapter 3 after Ryu slaughters the entire crew of an airship in an attempt to, quote, covertly, unquote, infiltrate the Vigor capital of Tyron. Seems legit. Climbing atop the airship triggers the cutscene that begins yet another challenging early boss fight. Doug has 5 distinct forms of attack. Because he's immune to projectiles and takes very minimal damage from Nimpo, you're likely to be up in his face to give him yet another butchered haircut. With that in mind, his most common attack will be a 360 no-scope bitch slap. This attack is fast in execution, but he has a bit of wind-up, so it's easy to time your dodges after getting in a few slashes. His second attack is a grapple that almost always follows if you successfully avoided the bitch slap. As with all bosses, his grapple is his most devastating attack. Aside from this, he will charge up his gun when he's not trying to pimp you out for a rent note, and then fire a blast or two. Occasionally, he'll grunt like an overweight dad getting out of his recliner and stomp the ground to generate an electric field. Note that this electric field cannot be penetrated, so you will need to wait for it to expire before you go back in. Lastly, after charging his weapon enough times, Doug will unleash his ultimate attack. This attack isn't too bad because due to the knockback from getting hit by the first laser, you are highly likely to dodge the subsequent shots. To beat Doug, avoid doing full combos. He will interrupt them with a slap or a grapple. If you dodge his 360 no-scope bitch slap, do not go in. Wait for him to miss his follow-up grapple, and then go in. Also, do not depend on the flying swallow for this fight. He is immune to it and will always retaliate after you go in on him. Only use the flying swallow for quick gap close, but then be prepared to roll right after using it. Take quick slashes at him and roll when he winds up his attacks. Eventually, you'll find the pattern to his madness. This boss is a struggle for new players, so don't feel too bad if you see a few game over screens. Defeating Big Boy Doug has no reward, simply chapter completion. Another genius name my childhood likeness came up with. The Red Horseman was given his name because he's red, and he's a horseman. Wow, wow. Number 12, Masakato, aka the Red Horseman. The second boss in Ninja Gaiden brings about a different dynamic than the first boss in that he has 2 mage warriors that indefinitely spawn to assist him. Masakato has a shallow attack pool that mirrors exactly that of the standard horseman enemies that you just got done fighting. Specifically, he has the staff whirl, side swipe, backswing, and grapple. What makes this fight challenging is that it's still early in the game and the fight against Mirai did absolutely nothing to prepare you for this. On top of that, you likely only just managed to beat the 4 horsemen encounter from 10 seconds ago. This fight takes patience. Try to get in attacks on him after he charges you. Be cautious about hitting full combos because you will either be punished by a backslash or blasted by one of the spellcaster B-boys. It's helpful to note that the spellcaster B-boys have a high chance of dropping blue essence, so you can get a quick heal if needed. But because they spawn infinitely, killing them should not be a priority. This fight only ends when the red horseman is killed. If you get into a good position, it might be worth it to hit him with some arrows, but keep that left trigger ready because you're going to be dodging some magic missiles for a large majority of this fight. Defeating Masakado gives you the incredibly useful technique scroll for counterattacks, plus completion of Chapter 2. Number 11. 2 electric worms. Now before you start raging in the chat, Codiferrous, what about the first electric worm? I'm leaving out the first electric worm fight because it'd be redundant to include it. Encountering the aqueducts shortly after your encounter with the first electric worm, you'll be challenged to fight 2 of them at the same time. They have separate health bars but share the exact same moves and patterns as the first electric worm and the fireworm. Specifically, they have a wide swipe attack, a grapple, and elemental blast. My advice for beating this boss is exactly the same as what I have for the fireworm. Feel free to flip back and forth across your available battlefield to dodge their unblockable elemental blasts, and whatever you do, always be on the lookout for their grapple. The worms are most vulnerable just after they fail a grapple or miss a swipe, so punish them accordingly. I recommend using the Doppelharo for this fight to get the most damage, as the worms will always remain in a vulnerable position for a full combo no matter what the weapon is. Helpful to know, the worms almost never attack at the same time. Defeating the 2 electric worms rewards you with a golden scarab and a life of the gods. Number 10. 2 tanks. Get ready to crank up the defecation dial because we are getting into some serious shit now. In Chapter 9, when slaughtering the Vigor military, you will come upon a tank in an open arena. Now, when I first played back in the days when Halo reigned supreme, I got giddy with excitement thinking that the tank was for me to get into. Imagine my crushed adolescent soul when I saw 3 douchebags jog up and snatch away my hopes and dreams. Cue number 10 on our list, the tank. An experienced ninja will not have many issues with this boss, but a player doing a blind run-through is likely to hit the wall when facing off this dream crusher. The tank has 3 means of inflicting damage. Firstly, if you get too close to the tank, you will run the obvious risk of getting run over by it. Secondly, the machine gunner will constantly be chipping away at you throughout the fight. And lastly, well, do you want to take a guess what the tank's primary means of damage is? Oh, go ahead. No, take a guess. Is it A, shoot you with this big ass cannon? B, shoot you in the ass with this big f***ing cannon? Or C, blow your ass up with this giant motherfucking cannon? That's right, secret option D, all of the above. This cannon blast can cause some serious damage if not avoided. Even though the cannon is highly predictable, it is firing throughout the whole entire fight. Even one mess up can ruin a run if you haven't been rationing out your elixirs. To beat this boss, you need to make usage of your arrows. The arena has 2 crates that supply both explosive arrows and the AC/DC cores. While the cores do more damage, the explosive arrows will make the machine gunner hide for a brief period. When the fight starts, immediately roll to safety because there's a high chance that a tank blast is already making a booty call your way. Initiate by firing an explosive arrow at the tank to make the gunner hide, or if you're skilled like yours truly, you'll shoot the gunner with one of your cores. In any case, after the gunner hides, switch over to your cores if you haven't already and start letting loose. The tank will always rotate its barrel and lock onto you before firing, so use this knowledge to carefully time your dodges. The gunner will eventually return to the secondary gun, so when he does, make like his ex-wife and dispose of his broke ass. Rinse and repeat this cycle and you will have no choice but to succeed against this tank. Number 9. Oh wait, what's that? Oh right, the second tank. After destroying the first tank, if you haven't already sold your soul to the devil to get this far, prepare to have it torn from your mortal vessel as you watch a second tank roll out from the garage. I don't think I've seen a quicker cloud of depression settle on a gamer as when this cutscene triggers. It is the exact same as the first tank, so utilize whatever strategy worked the first time, and then we can talk about what therapist works best for you. Also, you probably guessed it already, but there's no reward for defeating this boss. Number 9. Smalgin, aka the Gold Dragon. After recovering the Eye of Ice from Yitanfro and the Eye of Fire from the Fireworm, you find yourself at a peculiar door. Inserting both key items brings you into a magma cavern that is totally not a boss arena. Grab the deity statue and oh, what's this? It was a boss arena! Enter number 9, Smalgin. This boss only has 4 attacks, but what he lacks in variety, he makes up with decent resistances and high damage output. He has a sweeping flamethrower, a fireball projectile, a heat nova, and his most tilting, his most broken ass, stupid ass, depression inducing, salt spreading attack, his grapple. If I had it my way, I would rank this boss higher up on the list just for this attack. His flamethrower, easy peasy. His fireball, no problem. Heat nova, dodge it for no damage, block it for minimal damage. But his grapple is so fast and so sudden, it will almost always catch you off guard if you are not actively rolling around like a dung beetle answering a mating call. To be fair, it was my awful timing and obsession with beating this boss with the Doppelharo that gave me such a hard time. But that does not forgive the bullshittery of this attack. It's an instant chomp that easily deals 1/3 of your HP, and he has the audacity to use it whenever he feels, including right after he's already done it. Hello? To make it worse, if he misses it, there's hardly any for him to punish him. In fact, the only way to hurt this boss is to wait for him to hover his head over the platform with his tongue out before slapping him with a combo or two. Be wary, as this does put you in the perfect position for a chompin'. While you guys can see me struggle with this boss in the footage you're currently watching, I want to say that I played against him in mission mode where you are given very limited items. In addition to Smalgin being accompanied by 4 undead archers, I did it literally one day later and I was able to beat him with ease. But in any case, the easiest way to beat this boss is to fight him from the middle, top platform. Don't bother with a heavy weapon like I did, because you want to maximize mobility to dodge his attacks. When he beats his wings, he's about to do a heat nova, so defend yourself accordingly. His other fire attacks have exaggerated animations, so it's pretty simple to time. And at this point, you know all about the grapple. All of his attacks hit for moderate to high damage, so it's important that you learn the timings for this. What makes this boss difficult is that you fight him in fairly short succession to Yitanfro and the Fireworm. So, with that said, when you know this boss is coming up, be certain to stock up on healing items before you go all in. After you wipe up this scummy excuse for a Tolkien Lizard knockoff, you will be rewarded with the Lives of the Thousand Gods. Number 8, Marbus the Greater Fiend, aka Lord of the Fiend Realm. Nearing the end of the game, after you scale the Palace Core to the 5th level, you'll find a portal. Enter to begin your final visit to the Fiend Realm, where you will engage in a final endurance test. Here you will be fighting 3 bosses back to back, in order Hydrucubus for the 3rd time, Yitanfro for the 2nd time, and finally Marbus for the 1st and last time. Note that if you're playing on very hard difficulty, instead of fighting Yitanfro and Hydrucubus, you will have the special treat of fighting 2 much harder bosses, which we will get to, before facing off against Marbus. Marbus has a very limited attack pool. His most common offensive ability is his triple fireball attack, which deals moderate damage. Otherwise, he has 2 forms of dive attacks, which are punishable if he misses you. Finally, as Lord of the Fiend Realm, he has the ability to summon lesser fiends to aid him in his fight against you. At this point in the game, however, you are so strong that these lesser fiends end up being essence fodder. To beat him, just wait for him to do a spinning dive, prompted by a battle cry, and then dodge. He will end up headbutting the ground like a beta reindeer and find himself in a dazed state. Execute 1 full combo and then roll away because he will counter with his grapple if you get greedy. Otherwise, just do your best imitation of a helicopter when he's flying around to get in some chip damage, and you shouldn't find too many issues with this battle as opposed to other bosses. Unlike the previous entries on this list, Marbus is actually not as tilting of a boss to fight. The reason he finds himself so high is because of all the bullshit you have to go through just to get to him, all without the good fortune of a shop break. Defeating Marbus rewards you with a Devil Deity quest item. Number 7, Murai, aka the God with Nunchucks. Talk about getting none cucked at the start of a video game. Ninja Gaiden doesn't baby you at all with this asinine first boss. After battling through the ninja fortress, beginning to think that you're finally getting a grasp on what it means to be a ninja, you are treated with this cutscene of an Edo-era Arnold Schwarzenegger who has undergone training from Bruce Lee's ancestor. Mirai sits proudly at the number 7 spot despite being the first boss. This early in the game, the only tools you have are your level 1 dragon sword and your shuriken. And let me tell you right now, your shuriken are about as useful as the ones used in the Naruto anime. Mirai has a modest variety of abilities, attacks, and combos that he can utilize at any range. He has a basic 3-hit nunchuck combo that he can spam if you have trouble holding down the block button. He can reflect your shuriken back at you, and he has a dodge roll of his own. He can chain his nunchuck combo into 2 separate grapples. And finally, he has his ultimate technique. His ultimate technique and his grapples will likely be the abilities that will be presenting you with the majority of the game over screens that you're about to be seeing. To fight Mirai, you need to avoid going for full combos unless you have a clear opening. After finishing a full combo, quickly roll, run, or jump away, lest you risk getting caught by his assault. When Mirai rears back, he's about to do his ultimate technique, which always seems to have a little more range than you think should be necessary. This ultimate technique will also break your guard, and given that he has a much shorter recovery than you do, if you don't block or roll away immediately, you can definitely expect to be seeing your doctor to get some meds prescribed for catching some hands. When you dodge his ultimate attack, that is when he's the most vulnerable, so try to steal in a combo. But as always, don't get greedy. Don't waste too much time on ultimate techniques, as Mirai can block these. Alternatively, if you want to cast away your honor, you can do the basic bitch method and attempt to wall cheese this boss. By that, I mean you just spam the Divine Cicada slash, flying bird flip plus Y, to beat him. This is semi-effective, however, as Mirai can also block this attack and he can punish you during your vulnerability state. The only good news is that you only need to get Mirai to 1/5 HP before the cutscene triggers. Trial and error enough times and you should hopefully emerge victorious. Either that or you shut off your console and return the game. Either way, congratulations. Beating Mirai gives you nothing! Number 6, Nikkei. Nikai? Niche? Nikki? So you decide to be a hardcore gamer and play through Ninja Gaiden on very hard mode, eh? You play all the way through to the Palace Core and run through Marbus' Fiend Challenge, but what's this? He's not spawning Hydrucubus. Well, what could it be? Allow me to present number 6 on our list, Nikkei. One of 2 of the twin ancient greater fiends, Nikkei is the ancestral likeness of Alma. Nikkei has the same move pool as Alma, but is less frustrating to fight for 2 reasons, which we will get to in just a minute. Nikkei will spend most of the time in the air for this battle, and has a large set of attacks. Her most common attack is a swooping headbutt. She can also summon fireballs that will home in on your position. She has an aerial stomp attack, and when she's on the ground, she has the bitch slap. Note that all of these attacks have knockback on them. These attacks are not too bad, but what makes Nikkei a headache to battle is her agility, and of course, her 2 grapple attacks. The first one she will do when she's on the ground. She will flip and wrap her legs around your throat before slamming you onto the ground for 1/3 of your HP. The other, and the much more tilting one, she will be in the air and activate this sort of anti-gravity field which pulls you up to her, where she will first render you incapable of reproducing, followed by a Chuck Norris spin kick into the earth, also for 1/3 of your HP. The Flying Swallow is the best method to beat her, as 1 or 2 solid hits from it will send her to her down state, where you will have the opportunity to hit her with a combo. The Flying Swallow will have the most success if used while Nikkei is doing her swooping attack. Ninpo is only semi-effective on her, in that if it does connect it will down her, but half the time she'll simply dodge to the side and you end up wasting it. Use Ninpo at your own discretion. Nikkei is lower on this list than Alma for the fact that she is battled at the end of the game when you have ascended to the Ninja Avatar state. Please note that I didn't have the time and patience to go through hard mode and very hard mode just to grab this footage, so the footage that I am using is taken from Nikkei's mission mode fight in Captivating Goddesses. Defeating Nikkei rewards you with the pleasure and honor of battling yet another trauma-inducing boss. Number 5, Awakened Alma, aka Centipede Bitch. After finding the Dragon's Eye, Ryu will use the Serpent Warp to find the Spirit of Doku, preparing to sacrifice Rachel for the Fiendish Awakening. As Ryu goes to stop him, Alma intervenes and undergoes a hellish transformation into this thing. Awakened Alma has the same moveset as her previous incarnation, but with some obvious visual reworks. Her grapple now does much more damage and is much more goosebump inducing. Your best friend for this fight will be the Flying Swallow and the occasional Nimpo. My advice for beating Awakened Alma is the exact same as Nikkei. The reasons that Awakened Alma is above Nikkei in this list is because they are both extremely similar in difficulty. But while only the hardcore players will have the pleasure of facing off against the hidden boss Nikkei, everyone has had to face off against Awakened Alma and have met the struggle against her. Defeating Awakened Alma yields no reward. Number 4. Spirit Doku. Everyone grab a glass of water, because for these last 4, the salt levels are about to get critical. So you stumble your way through the hellhole of Chapter 14, just bleeding your way through the numerous and dreaded ghost fish encounters. I f***ing hate these things, by the way. When you stumble through the doors into the battle arena, where you face off against number 4, Spirit Doku. I'm gonna be real, I dread this fight. Spirit Doku possesses the same abilities as before, however he is much quicker and more aggressive, and he also has a farther reach with his attacks. He has his quick slash attacks, his spirit breath, sword throw, and soul nova, but the attacks you absolutely must watch out for are his ultimate technique and of course his grapple attack. As I said earlier, all of his attacks have increased range, so therefore it's much easier to get caught in his ultimate technique combo if you fail to dodge or block. In addition to this, his grapple. His soul-crushing, blood-boiling grapple now has range. That's right, Spirit Doku will f***ing just chuck his arm at you to grab you and pull you in for the big suck. Oh, a grapple's pretty bad as is, but imagine now that all the damage that he does, he is healing himself for. Hello? What the fuck? Am I in the Twilight Zone right now? What kind of Stockholm Syndrome bullshit is this? I don't even have a good strategy for beating this boss. You are able to break out of his grapple prematurely by button mashing. If you're lucky, sometimes you can break out before he deals any damage at all. In addition to this, if you get caught in his ultimate technique, try spamming block and dodge. Sometimes you'll be able to cheese your way out to avoid taking the full damage output from it. The good news of this fight is that Spirit Doku is vulnerable to damage a majority of the time. So what I do is press the attack and tank the damage. You know, the power of friendship and all that shiz. To dump on you even more, on higher difficulties, Spirit Doku actually spawns with ghost fish to assist him in battle. I know that some of you Ninja Gaiden pros probably have this fight calculated down to the frame, but that's not your boy here. Oh, and don't bother using Nimpo. The pathetic amount of damage you do will only accelerate your descent into depression. Completing this abomination of a battle yields no reward! But it does complete Chapter 14. Number 3. Alma the Greater Fiend. After Ryu gets done playing pretend with Indiana Jones, he finds his way back to the Monastery Grand Hall. Things look pretty, but there are no enemies here. Did we perhaps get lost? Did we go the wrong way? Approach the pedestal and you will be treated with a beautiful cutscene. My personal favorite one in the game. You feel relief in discovering that you have found the means to progress the story, but that relief will soon be dashed when you realize that you've just triggered the beginning of the end. This fight with Alma floats its way to the number 3 spot. The difficulty spike from Hydrocubus and Bone Dragon to Alma is insane. The first time I encountered this boss was the first time I got hard stuck on Ninja Gaiden. She has high mobility, solid defenses, a large ability pool, and moderate to high damage output. She has 2 forms of attacks, aerial and ground-based. When in the air, she can perform her aerial swooping attack, cast homing fireballs, launch an aerial dive, she can dismantle and throw the surrounding pillars at you, and of course, her aerial grapple. This aerial grapple is textbook ass putty. Just like Nikkei, Alma will render you barren before drop-kicking your pathetic ass into the ground. While on the ground, Alma will pace around menacingly, but won't really attack unless you get close. She can do a small slap attack, or she can just ruin your whole career with her second grapple attack. Sounding like a skipped record at this point, but my advice for beating Alma remains the same as her other iterations. Make use of the Flying Swallow to knock her into her down state. When down, you need to punish her like a doorbell being rung by an overzealous Mormon. The reasons why Alma finds herself higher on this list than Awakened Alma and Nikkei is simply because Alma is encountered so much earlier in the game, and as such, your gear is weak and your supply of elixirs is likely to be low. Couple that with how this boss fight comes out of nowhere. If you don't know that Alma's coming up, you are probably ill prepared, which only adds to the bullshittery. On a side note, I do want to add that back in 2004, Alma was a pioneer boss that truly pushed the boundaries and definitions of what it means to be a difficult boss battle. That said, this fight is still ass. Beating Alma gives you the incredible reward of nothing. I'm gonna be real with you guys for a second. I really dread this fight. Number 2, Doku. The main antagonist of the game, Doku rightfully secures the number 2 spot. Entering his square arena, you might find yourself eager to engage in this fight. This was the guy responsible for all this after all. He's not a massive enemy. He isn't flying around and rolling at you. How bad can it be? My child, if you only knew. Allow me to educate you. Doku has a variety of abilities, high-ass defense stats, immunity to stagger, immunity to flying swallow, and can break your block. He has both range and close quarters attacks, and there appears to be no easy way to cheese him like you can with other bosses. Doku has basic sword slashes that he will do in close quarters. However, if you try to distance yourself, he can throw his sword for a quick range attack that deals moderate damage both on the way out and on the way back. In addition to this, he has 2 AoE attacks in the form of his Spirit Breath and his Soul Nova, which both deal solid damage. But again, the attacks you need to watch out for are his ultimate technique, and of course, you guessed it again, his grapple. For his grapple, Doku will impale you with the Kitetsu and suck the life out of you, healing himself in the process. Doku and his Spirit iteration are the only bosses capable of healing like this, but it's still a mountain of ass that they can even do it in the first place. That aside, for his ultimate technique, Doku will unleash a large and visually pleasing slew of attacks. These attacks will break your guard and grant no invincibility frames if you get hit. Meaning, if you stand there like a deer in headlights, you'll be eating a massive amount of damage. My advice for this fight lines up the same as my advice for his spirit form for the most part. The only big difference is that in this fight, Doku is slower, so if you need to heal, maximize your distance before elixiring up. That way when you get out of the menu, he doesn't slap you for all the HP that you just recovered. If he grapples you, button mash and you will release from it early. This saves you some health, but most importantly, it minimizes the amount that he will heal himself for. Doku is most vulnerable after missing a sword throw, casting a Spirit Breath, or after using a Soul Nova. Try to get in a few quick shots when you see the window for it. Another good opportunity is after you win a sword clash. Sometimes if the timing works out, you and Doku will end up in a sword lock. Spam the X button and you will break through his guard. This leaves him wide open for attack and you can punish him with a full combo. Otherwise, never try a full combo on him. He will always punish you for getting greedy. The best tactic I found is running through his windows of vulnerability and doing a quick 2/ combo before jumping out. This is done by simply running and hitting X twice. Because Doku's defenses are so high, this fight will inevitably take a lot of patience. Persevere though, and you will be rewarded with one of my personal favorite weapons, Doku's sword, the Kitetsu. Number 1. Alrighty, the one that you've all been waiting for. Now picture the scene. You're playing through on very hard mode, and you've just gotten through the shock that Nikkei has replaced Hydrucubus as the first boss of Marvis's Fiend Realm. Now you're certain that the second boss is Utanfro, right? Wrong. Team Ninja pulls another fast one and replaces Utanfro with yet another secret boss. Now, choosing a number 1 spot wasn't easy for this list. Ultimately, I had to really sit down and ask myself a couple of questions. I had to ask myself which boss I felt the least confident in, but also which one did I dread the most. And uncontestably, that is going to be Ishtaros. Ishtaros is the one that sits alone on top of Salt Mountain on her throne of bullshit. Enter Ishtaros. Being the twin of Nikkei and the second ancient greater fiend, Ishtaros is the ancestral fiend likeness of Rachel. As I mentioned, she, like Nikkei, are only available for battle on very hard mode and appear just before you fight Marbus. They also have their fights back to back, so you don't get the opportunity to stock up at a shop. Ishtaros is very difficult to deal with for a myriad of reasons. On very hard mode, the boss damage is cranked up to the maximum, so you already got that going against you. The arena that you fight in is also very small and offers no obstacle coverage or good spots for repositioning. And now her moveset. Ishtaros has very quick slap-happy attacks that she can execute in rapid succession. These attacks have a wide reach as her whippy arm extends out when she attacks. Ishtaros' first ultimate, that's right, her first ultimate attack, comes in the form of a long-range dash attack. This attack is the definition of a fecal fillet special with a side of ass radish. This attack spans the entire arena, is unblockable, deals massive damage, and has very little wind-up time. Her second ultimate attack is much easier to work with. Ishtaros will swing around the arena like a primate that just discovered puberty and try to smash you into the dirt. If you avoid this attack, however, you'll be able to let off a full combo on her. I recommend charging up a gleaming blade and then unleashing it just as she lands. Finally, her most infuriating attack of all. I don't even know what to call it, but for her final move, Ishtaros pulls up this shield and fires several lasers out of it in a line. This attack is unblockable and deals massive damage. The shittiest part about it is that in some instances, she will spam this attack back to back to back. The only advice I can really give is to just press on. Constantly be rolling when she's attacking, and be attacking when she's not. Avoid her arena swing to get in the big combo, and then get back to weaving through. This fight will take a lot of trial and error, seeing as how you have never had a boss fight similar to this. As with the footage of Nikkei, I didn't have the time and patience to go through hard mode and very hard mode just to grab footage of this, so the footage I am using is taken from her mission mode fight in Captivating Goddesses. Oh. And defeating Ishtaros, it grants you your third boss fight, the one with Marbus. Congratulations! So anyways guys, thank you for joining me on this wonderful trip down Reminiscence Lane. If you want to check out my own playthrough of Ninja Gaiden, you can witness for yourself my slow descent. In the meantime, take care, stay safe, stay happy, and hopefully I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.